I'm going to talk about the number one secret to success online, and I hope the audio is okay. I think I I actually forgot to plug in one of the microphones, so while everyone's hopping on and joining up, I'll actually plug in one of my extra mics here just to make sure you can hear me. Although, I think I've forgotten before and it's worked out okay. But I got the mic, so I may as well plug them in. Hopefully I won't knock over my phone. All right, I see some people are joining up, and I can tell you that it's going to be a little shorter today. I see John over there. Thanks for joining up. Hopefully people could hear me. I see one person over on Facebook. Ronit, hey, how's it going? So if you're just joining up, thanks for signing on today. I now have wires everywhere, so David's on. Thanks. We are talking about the number one secret to online success. Very, very clickbaity, but I won't make it long-winded today. So, Dami, thanks for joining up. And I think, I've been doing this. This is like the 7th day, almost in a row. I may have missed a day here or there. But yeah, Ronit says one-click success. I think YouTube's winning by a large margin. I think there's slightly more control over like what's being shown on the YouTube side, as far as people getting notifications and people that care are getting the notifications. And then on Facebook, I don't know who's seeing this stuff. But all right, like I said, I'm not going to belabor it today. It's actually a rainy day here in Bozeman, and I was having some coffee with Jim, who is from the Starting From Scratch case study on Niche Site Project. So he and I were catching up for a couple hours this morning, and it's a little rainy. Normally I would have walked to the coffee shop, which is only maybe like a 10 or 15 minute walk. David says it's nice and sunny in Tel Aviv. It sounds nice. I mean, it's good to have the contrast of like sunny and cloudy and rainy, so it's a good day to stay inside. But the thing is, like, I kind of need to go outside and walk or do some kind of exercise like through the day, or I kind of get stressed out, which isn't cool. So once I finish up, I'm going to the gym, and then I'll feel better about things. And Jared says it's 95 in Brooklyn. Yeah, I heard it was hot over in the Northeast. It was kind of warm here like last week, but it's cooled down. There will be snow in the mountains when the clouds lift, I'm sure. So kind of nice. Okay, so I'll get into it. Today we're going to talk about the number one secret to success online. I think it's probably the same thing that will lead to success in other areas, in any other business that you're working on also. I'll tell you how I came up. I gave it a much better headline than the idea that I sketched out. So like a couple weeks ago, I wrote out all of, 10 ideas to do during these live streams, to explain during these live streams. And basically, I came up with quite a few around niche site stuff, which I definitely wanted to cover. The other part that I wanted to cover was around like corporate jobs and more, I guess, going back to my roots of a corporate job, because trust me, there are more people with corporate jobs that want to get into niche sites or not sure that they want to get into niche sites. And there are people working on internet marketing full time. So I know like that's an area of people that I want to talk to, and I can relate to them really well. Hey, Adrian, welcome. Thanks for saying hello. I appreciate that. And the thing that I wrote down was the ability to adapt and the desire to have continuous improvement, which they're kind of hand in hand to me. And I'll explain like how it applied to me personally, and maybe even refer you to a couple places to check out to get more like information. And I do always tie it back to project management, because that's my thing. So if I don't tie it back to project management, then I'm doing myself a disservice. So the project management angle is around continuous improvement, and that's an idea from Agile project management. And Agile is a fairly sort of young label to an old idea, which generally, if you had to summarize it, it is around continuous improvement. Implement, get feedback, use that continuous feedback loop, and adapt. So I'll explain how this applies, like when you look at my full online journey. So I've only been doing internet marketing for about is it 3.5 years or is it 4 years? It is, it's just over 4 years. And I see Paul over on the Facebook side. Yeah, so Agile, the question is Agile project management like Lean? Yeah, they're pretty close together. Unfortunately, some companies actually just use the terms interchangeably, but like there's Lean project management, there's Agile, there's the Scrum methodology, and they all kind of have similar ideas. What they are distinctly not is like a waterfall structure. So a lot of this, Agile grew out of software project management. So a waterfall structure, I'm kind of going down the wormhole or the rabbit hole here. A waterfall project management approach is where you work on, I'll apply it to niche sites, okay? So let's say you're building a niche site and you plan everything out. So you're in the planning phase of, planning out the site, you plan out the architecture, you plan out all the posts that you want to do, all the keywords that you're going to approach, and then you move on to the next step, which would be build the website. So maybe you spend 3 months planning it, and then you spend 3 months building it. So you're building out the site, you're putting your theme, you're doing a bunch of work, and you're not moving on until you basically complete that work. So you plan it, you work on building the site, and then you work on, say, adding content, and then you work on link building. Well, if you do that, you're going to end up with some trouble, right? So if you do that and you reach the say outreach and link building portion, and then you realize your keywords were bad, well, you have to go all the way back to the planning phase to fix it. And at that point you've invested, I don't know, like a year of your time and thousands of dollars. And the reason why the 5-figure niche site system works, and I'll confidently say it's better than other systems, is because it uses Agile ideas where essentially you are working on like deliverables that you can like publish, right? So it's the content, traffic, profit sprint. So we build the sites based on sprints. So instead of publishing like 100 posts like other people tell you to, and then start doing other stuff, you're doing like 10 posts, and then you're starting the promotion, and then you start getting traction on the 10 posts. So then you can work on the next 10. So instead of spending 6 months publishing 100 posts, you spend like 6 days publishing 10 posts, and then you can go ahead and start getting traffic and start gaining momentum. So I'm digressing a little bit, but I guess it's important to point out the distinction and why like Agile and continuous improvement is important. Now, when I tie it back to my full story, I can refer back to like Niche Site Project, and if you look at, I believe there's a post called, it's like the Niche Site Roller Coaster, and if you've been to many of these live streams or webinars rather, you've seen the roller coaster of, I learned about niche sites, and then I built one that was really good, and then I got penalized, and then I built some more and they got penalized. And each time I did something, I learned and I adapted to it. Now, the thing is, if you hear about niche sites, right, and you don't know much about them, you hear, my story, you hear Rob's story, you learn about, what Jim's been doing over the last year. You take a look at like Spencer Hawes or Pat Flynn. I mean, he started with niche sites back years ago before he had his podcast. And when you look at that and you hear what you could do, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna create a site, I'm gonna follow all the directions, and then it doesn't work. Well, you probably, you learned a lot along the way, but I can tell you most of the time your first attempt is not going to work. My first attempt didn't work at a niche site, and most of the people that are successful, their first try didn't work either. It's only through the experience and then launching a new site and taking what you learned and then applying it, and you get a little bit better each time. Basically anything worthwhile is going to take like that sort of effort and that kind of focus, and you'll have to look and say, all right, there's a strong chance I'm going to fail here, but I definitely need to take what I'm learning each time around. And the other part is, once you get to a point where you are, I guess, successful, you need to make sure that you're continuing to learn, right? So as you're successful, the things that you've been working on for a couple years are finally coming to fruition, and the results are good. You can't stop learning. You need to, I guess, keep adapting as you go. So if you stop taking that feedback, you're in trouble also. And I remember that like as much as possible, because if I'm not trying to learn something new, then I'm like stagnant and I'm not helping anyone out. So I think that's a really important aspect too. I skipped a big step there from like struggling to get started, and then once you do get started, it's still important to remember that. So I think I can learn from anyone. If a reader asks me a question about the keyword golden ratio, and they're like, hey, I think maybe I discovered something new, I listen. I don't assume that I know everything. I assume that I don't know any, like that I don't know much, right? I assume that I don't know much and that other people could teach me things all the time. So I talked a decent amount. I'm not going to keep going here, but I'll answer some questions real quick. I see some people are chatting on the YouTube side, which I appreciate. And we got a good crowd. We got 12 people on all at once, which is pretty good. And then 4 people on Facebook. I'm sure there's some overlap, so I appreciate that. All right. So John, welcome. And I'm just going back to the beginning. David, Ronit, Dami, awesome. And Leo, what's up? Thanks for joining up. Jared, of course. And analysis paralysis. Ronit mentions that analysis paralysis is his problem. How can I overcome that? I would say you have to take some kind of action first, right? You have to make a decision. And as we're thinking about it, usually most decisions that you make are reversible, right? So you could make a decision and it could be the wrong one, and then you could fix it later, right? So usually there's not a big consequence to a decision. Now, that's not always true. Some are more difficult to fix after the fact, but I can give you an example. So Jim and I were talking today about some keywords and like how to prioritize what content to focus on first. And there was a suggestion that I had around prioritizing it, but at the end of the day, I was like, well, you have like 100 keywords you want to target and you want to publish all that content. It could be good to publish some stuff before other content, but at the end of the day, in like a year from now, when they're all published, it's probably not going to matter that much. So, maybe focus on these couple with higher keyword volume, search volumes, just because maybe you can get more traffic in that way. But really just, make sure you publish them all and you'll be good to go. So, Ronit, I would say my suggestion is just make a decision and move forward, because it probably doesn't matter what your decision is as long as you're taking some action. And once it's a tough diagram to draw, but like if you're right here right now, it's kind of bright right here. I'm going to just get close and then I'll show it to the YouTube folks in a second. So if you're right there right now, and I'll write this out. You're right here now and you make some decision and then you end up here in this larger circle, after you take some action, okay, you're going to have like another view that you didn't have before. You couldn't see the possibilities that you had. Now, now you're going to have some more decisions to make up here, but you're going to have a new view, and maybe I don't know what those are, right? But maybe it's this. Maybe you, and I hope this makes sense here. So maybe you're not doing anything right now. That's where you're starting from. But you want to build the niche site. So build a niche site, and then once you're there, maybe you realize that you can actually do drop shipping or maybe FBA, and maybe you're more interested in that stuff, and now you have momentum. But you may not be able to jump to some other area instead, or you know what? Maybe something totally different. Maybe you realize you love writing, and then one of the options that you have is to be a writer. So as long as you do something, you're going to be better off than if you don't do anything. All right, and then Facebook side, you didn't get the play by play, but basically, if you're not doing anything, you should do something, and then you'll have the option. You'll have a different view. You'll have different experiences and a different set of contacts in a network. So maybe you get into drop shipping, maybe you like FBA, maybe you decide you're a writer and you want to do that instead. But if you don't do anything, you're not going to have many options. Okay. And as we're going on, Adrian, thanks for joining up. Ronit, you're 24. You feel you're late. You got your whole life ahead of you. I was still in college when I was 24, so don't worry about that. John asked, can I redo my video on guest posting in Google? A portion of the video was missing. Hey, John, can you send me an email and let me know which URL that is? I'm not aware of that, but I'd be happy to reshoot it and maybe raise the production value on that. Raphael says, trying to make my first site successful with funnels. I would say that's cool. Taking action is a good thing to do. Funnels are hard to work on, so I know they can work, but you gotta keep it tight as far as like your budget spend on ads and stuff like that. And quick note, I tried to do some funnels with one of my business partners, Lewis Ogden, used to blog at Cloud Income, and basically we're niche site people, right? We're SEOs and niche site people, and we were trying to build a site around email marketing and funnel design because we read Digital Marketer and thought it was super cool. Turns out we didn't do a great job with it. We were trying to compete with like Digital Marketer, and we were trying to like branch out and learn more because they were telling us it was such a great opportunity, which it was, but just not for us. It's like if we're already experts in an area, why would we try and like go somewhere else instead of refine what we know? So we're actually, I'll write about it in probably the next 6 months or so, but we're going back to that project and we're applying what we know with niche sites, which is even more now, and we're probably going to do much better with it than we ever did with funnel design. So, okay, as we're going on here, and then Raphael says, hey Doug, do you use Longtail Pro? No, I don't. I use Keyword Keg right now, and I use some SEMrush. SEMrush is really good. I know a lot of people really like Ahrefs, but right now, like, I'm just using Keyword Keg and SEMrush. There's another tool. A guy named Nick is one of the founders of a new startup called Furzy, and I'm taking a look at that. It's mainly around like keyword competition analysis, which I'm big on, and it's good. It's good, but it still has some work going on it. So I'm going to try to, hopefully advise them a little bit on some stuff that I would like. I mean, that is a luxury that I have. I can like tell people like what I would like to see in tools, and they'll listen. So I do like what they're doing at Furzy. I know some people really like it, but it's not quite there yet. And I think Keyword Keg is really good. I am talking with one of the developers there around how they determine their keyword like competition and difficulty and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool that they're working with me on it. In fact, I may put out some YouTube videos on like their algorithm that they're using. They shared that with me, which is it was really nice that they shared it with me, but I may go into it. It's not, I mean, I like the keyword golden ratio because it doesn't look like it can be automated. So I really like I really like that. If you can automate it, then they're not going to be as valuable. So that's just the way it is. All right, as we're going through here, and Tahana, welcome. Thanks for joining up again. Okay, John asks, what if I write 600 to 700 words article when an all in title result shows up only 3 or no results, and then the golden ratio is below 0.05? That would be great if you did that. I'm not sure if I get the full context of the question, John. And but I think that would be great. I would go for it. I would maybe if you have the ability to write 1,000 words, that could be nice. But that stat that you just sent over is very good. You say you're 52 years old, which that's pretty young too. I mean, it's not too bad. You're not too late. And then Leo asked, I mentioned that Lewis used to write a cloud income. No, you know what? He's just taking a break from blogging. Like he's focusing on his sites and like more revenue generating stuff. And I don't know like if he has future plans, for something else, but I know he's focusing like on his sites and like on affiliate marketing, not on blogging about internet marketing. So that's one of the reasons I was able to like take over basically his Facebook group because he wasn't super active there and I was. So cool. So good question, Leo. And then I see KW Finder is good for keyword research. Yep, Adrian, I've heard of that one. Keyword Revealer, I've heard some people use that. And Furzy is it's FERZY. So it's just another keyword tool out there. Keyword Keg is good. They use a lot of different APIs, which is good. And David mentions you hope you keep up the live cast. Awesome. I hope I do too. I may need to just do a little bit more prep on them so it's a little tighter, and then we'll see how it goes. But I'm enjoying it. And John, thank you for the question. And Dami, thanks for helping out on the Furzy. And Peter Nader, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. All right, and I see a question on Facebook. Garab asks, can I take a session on schema markups? Which one has to be marked site-wide and which on a specific page? Impact of schema markup on click-through rate. You know what? This will be a thing where I'll have to think about, Garab, because the thing is, I don't do any schema markup stuff. My peers, right, they're not doing that really. So is schema markup something that can be done? Sure. Couldn't it help the CTR, the click-through rate on your Google results? Maybe. Is it something like critical that you have to do? I don't think so. Like I'm not doing it and I'm fine. Other people are not worrying about it either. It could be something, I have heard like people throw out, oh, you could really increase your click-through rate by like 25, I'm just making it up, by like 25%. But, one, I don't know anything about it. I have a low interest in it, and I probably won't cover it. Thank you for the suggestion. If you have others, I would definitely want to hear it. But I definitely don't know about it. And I guess, like I said, I have a low interest on it. So The other thing that I may have talked about today is around like just hiring people on Upwork, right? So in the last week, I hired like 8 people, and then they were all like almost all of them were pretty good. So I hired like 7 of them back again. I feel like hiring people is one of the things that I get the most questions about across the board, like from students who have like even more access to me, where we can hop on a call and like talk about specifically what they're dealing with, and then just from readers who send in questions. Like hiring VAs is one of the more challenging things. I'm not sure why. I really don't know where the hang up is, or why like I don't have the issue. Maybe I have internalized something. But anyway, I'm digressing. But the point is, I don't know much about schema markup, so I probably won't talk about it much. And I don't care to learn about it right now. But I do know a lot about hiring people on Upwork, and I could talk all day about that stuff. So I'll probably focus on that. And Garab, I appreciate the question on that though. If you learn about it and give me notes and tell me about it, that would be cool. So that would be really cool. And Paul asks on the Facebook side, thank you, Paul, how much time should be spent on keyword analysis? That's a tough question. It is kind of unanswerable. I would kind of say as much as needed. So, like, how many links does it take to rank a site? How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? No one knows. Like, no one really knows. If you're launching a site and you know what, Paul? How experienced are you with keyword research? Tell me that. How many sites have you launched? If someone asks you if you're an expert in keyword research, are you like beginner, intermediate, advanced, expert? Like, what level are you? Self-described. All right, I see some questions over here. Oh, Jared says, how is Jim's sites doing? He didn't make it to 2K yet, but he's pretty close. He's on track for a record month right now, and we've regrouped a little bit over the last couple months. So he's like focusing on the core stuff, which is, I mean, Jared, you're in the core, so you know what we're talking about. It's like, get the right kind of content up, do the sprints that you need to do the blog commenting, and do the guest post. It's like super simple formula, but it's kind of hard to execute, especially like across the span of time. But he's on track for a record month. Jim and I talked today. We're probably going to do some videos like next week to not only provide some updates, but to talk about some issues that we've worked through over the last couple months. So, and Garab asked, take a session on hiring people from Upwork. You mentioned that you don't get good responses and you struggle with a lot of the same. Cool. So I can talk about the Upwork stuff. And then Tahana says, I'm going to create my website next week after my last exam. You're following the niche site process. That's good. Do you think $50 a month is enough to start with? Keyword, KEG, domain name, hosting. It's on the edge, because a lot of times when you buy hosting, you need to pay like a year or 2 years or 3 years up front. So your first month is going to be like more expensive. However, one should be able to launch a site with about 250 or $300, especially if you're doing a lot of the work yourself. And say if you go watch all my YouTube videos, you can, a lot of the time I'm not pushing an affiliate thing like Keyword KEG. They're like the cheapest like keyword research tool around, and I'm not an affiliate, right? And that's the people I recommend. I could recommend expensive tools, but I don't. So if you go watch some stuff on my YouTube channel, which I know you do, Tana, you'll be able to do it a little bit cheaper. $50 a month, like once you get the initial month out of the way, I think that is fine. And John says probably the ability to communicate directions effectively is the issue with hiring a VA. Okay, that's good to know. And Ronit says, who do you follow? And I'm not sure what you're asking, Ronit, but maybe come back. And then Easy Azon, $50, but I think it's a one-time payment. Anything you're missing? You know what? You don't need Easy Azon to get started. You don't need that level of, I guess, product. So don't worry about that. And Ronit says, what link building tactics do I follow? I generally do like blog commenting and then guest posting primarily. Jim and I actually were talking about scholarship like campaigns this morning. So I've tested that out some, and the results seem fine, but I haven't obviously written about it much or talked about it much in general. So, okay, coming back to Paul, thank you for the clarification. And I see we're hitting about 30 minutes. So while we're here, thanks everyone for sticking around for such a long time. If you have the ability to, like the videos and comment, I appreciate you staying on for this long. That's important to me, and it's very helpful. But if you have the ability to hit the thumbs up or tap the screen and do all that kind of stuff, that'll help me out. So I appreciate it. So coming back to Paul over here, Paul, okay, so he's generally a beginner. He danced around he danced around the answer, which is fair, right? So Paul's original question is, how much time should you spend on keyword analysis? If you're a beginner, you probably should be spending like many hours on keyword research, because you'll develop a little bit of an intuition by spending time using the tools and then researching sites. So one thing that I have spent countless hours on is, finding some keywords and then looking at the front page, right? The first page of the SERPs, the results page, and then I'll look at any niche sites in the top 10 on the first page. I'll go take a look at the actual site. I'll see like what the site looks like. I'll take a look at the content. I'll see how much informational content they have. Then I'll go look over at like Ahrefs, and I'll also look at Majestic to see their backlinks and stuff. And is that really keyword research? It's kind of keyword research, because you're looking at competition and you're learning about other keywords and how people are targeting them, and like how much competition is developed around that keyword. And the more time you spend with the tools, like this suite of tools that are, sort of disjointed and you have to go back and forth to get the information, it's pretty important to like understand how it all fits together. Now, I've done so much, and a lot of other, people have done the same, right? I'm not special. I just spent a lot of time using the tools, looking at the keywords, and then I can easily like take a look at the SERPs, and I'm like, you know what, I won't touch this keyword. I'm really not interested in that niche even, and then I just move on. So to answer your question, Paul, you should probably be spending a lot of time on research. Now, also bear in mind that taking action is pretty important, but once you get started, like keep doing keyword research and learning more. It was like 3 years after I got started, or 2.5 years after I got started, before the keyword golden ratio like really clicked. And it was through talking with people in my mastermind group, and it took little pieces that people told me and sort of put it together a little bit, and then of course put a name on it, because that's what a marketer will do. So hopefully that helps, Paul. And I saw a couple more questions on YouTube, so I'll just come back. And then Ronit says, who do I follow as far as link builders? Yeah, I mean, I like Brian Dean. I like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't follow that many people right now. But, Backlinko, huge respect for him. If you haven't listened to the episode with Brian Dean on Noah Kagan's podcast. Check it out. It's very good. And when you listen to it, you'll hear like a lot of the stuff, like the link building stuff that I just talked about. Like I can explain it in like 2 sentences. Is it easy? Not really, but it's really simple. And I think that's a lot of what Brian teaches. Like it's simple stuff that like it works because it doesn't scale really well and not as many people do it, and it works. So yeah, Brian's really good. Huge respect for Brian. Tana says, you're also thinking about writing articles for others on Upwork, learning about SEO, improving the skills. Any tips what to learn before applying for jobs? What do I look for in VAs? I look for like good communicators and people that are flexible. And basically, if you do what you say you're going to do, then you'll be in good shape. And Tahan, if you're thinking about working on Upwork, send me an email and let me know what you're looking at doing. Yep. So yeah, Tahana, just shoot me an email on the Niche Site Project email. Just Doug at Niche Site Project. Let me know. Okay, cool. It looks like all the questions are in, and we somehow managed to make it to about 36 minutes, which is pretty long. And some people showed back up on the Facebook side, so that's pretty cool on the Facebook side. We'll have a lot to catch up on. So some of the other topics that I was looking at for this week, I'll just mention. I noted something like just the awareness of online income. Because for me, when I first learned about internet marketing, I was like blown away. And in fact, Jim and I were talking about it too. Like he was looking into like the idea of passive income and like really like didn't give any credit to making money online for a while. And then he and I connected, knew each other for a while before he even like came around to look at niche sites and stuff. And I'm not sure like what the trigger was, but I mean, I didn't even know there was a thing online to make money. Some of the other topics were, simplify the process to prioritize. I don't remember what I was talking about specifically, but I know if you could simplify the process, it's usually better. We like to make things complicated, like we were asking about SEO earlier, and there's a lot of stuff that you can do for SEO, but it turns out like most of it is just helps a tiny bit. And if you focus on, the 2 or 3 things that make the biggest difference, like you're much better off. So those are some things that I've been looking at to talk about this week. But if you have ideas, let me know. I do appreciate the ideas that people have been mentioning on YouTube, especially. There's been a mention to do some interviews. So those will be like produced a little harder, but I have a decent number of, some people are bloggers and who they are and I can interview them, but it's kind of interesting to hear from people that like aren't, blogging, you've never heard of them, they're just in the trenches doing a bunch of work, or maybe they disappeared like Lewis has been blogging for a while, has a pretty big following, and then he was just like, hey, I'm going to focus on my work, like I'm not going to blog for a little while because it's a little bit of a distraction. And like he's doing even better than he ever was when he was blogging. So, okay. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you next time tomorrow.